Forces under President William Ruto are pulling the rug under his feet in the wake of KEMSA and the sugar scandal that is going on. And if you grab the Nation on Sunday, they have detailed an interesting inquest about how insiders at the investigating agencies are complaining about harassment and infiltration from some powerful forces. Welcome to the bold analysis. We insisted that it was a good direction, and we lauded the direction of the president to sack those who are actually implicated in corruption scandals. But the sacking also had to be complemented by thorough investigations so that we can actually see the seriousness. It is through thorough and objective investigation that you will be in a position to separate the truth from the lie and hold people responsible for looting of the public resources. And just merely a week, the Sunday Nation are talking about powerful individuals behind billion-shilling scandals. This is really going on. Two scandals, first of their own, to rock President Ruto's administration, the KEMSA and that of the sugar. Even after President showed interest in fighting graft and tough talking in political events, this story is very heartbreaking about how inside forces have forestalled the process of getting to the root cause of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to start by the soundbite from President Ruto talking tough and promising the country that he will have to make personal responsibility. I want us to poke holes from that in that statement.
Sitakuwa wa kuongea mambo mingi, lakini mimi nataka niwaambie I will take personal responsibility on the accountability of resources of the people of Kenya. Ile pesa yenu, ushuru ya wananchi wa Kenya, pesa wananchi wa Kenya wametoa kwa jasho yao. Hakuna mtu ataiba. Hawawezi. Na mtu akijaribu atakutana na mimi. Kwa sababu sina kazi nyingine. Ile kazi nilipatiwa na ile fimbo nilipatiwa pale ni kunyorosha watu ambao wanataka kukuepa na pesa ya wananchi. And therefore nimeshawaambia kila mtu, marafiki zangu nimewaambia, wale sio marafiki zangu nimewaambia ya kwamba tuendelee na urafiki, tuendelee na mambo mengine, lakini pesa ya wananchi hapana. Hiyo ni pesa ya wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya na tutachunga kuhakikisha ya kwamba.
And I want us to look at this. That is President saying, I'm going to deal with even those who believe who I look as my friends. Tough talking and promising the public. I cannot understand how anyone below President William Ruto can forestall investigations that have been called or rather ordered by the president. At least we need to separate that. At least Ruto needed to show us his difference with that of Uhuru Kenyatta, because we know in the wake of COVID-19, Uhuru Kenyatta promised to crack the whip on COVID-19. And in fact, according Uhuru Kenyatta's template was, in the wake of a corruption scandal, he would want investigations to be done. And after investigations are done and someone charged, at the point you are charged, that's when he would actually suspend or rather relieve you of your duties. But President William Ruto gave it a different trick, that immediately you are linked, you step aside. And that's why we saw those suspensions. Now, there is something I want to say about this ministry. Especially, let's start with the health. Health CS Susanna Commisha, I still strongly believe she was brought in government not by Ruto Rigathi side. She could have been a pick by Moses Wetangula or Musalia Mudavadi. And lamentations by her and reports of meddling with investigations have left herself really frustrated, despite of the president talking tough on corruption. Now, Commisha recently complained about how investigations under KEMSA are being riddled by powerful figures in government, and she's saying that even KEMSA officials blocked her efforts to have the mosquito net scandal investigated. Susan says some junior officers under her ministry were taking instructions from other powerful individuals above her, but they're taking instructions from the other powerful individuals in government. And there is an example of what he actually said here. She actually said about how, said, just to let you know how corruption fights back, on Thursday last week, immediately after the release of the report, I wrote to EACC asking it to investigate, the CS said. On Monday morning, I reached out to the EACC Chief Executive Officer, Twalib Mubarak, to find out if he had received my letter. To my surprise, he had not, but he assured me that his detective had swung into action. She added that there are people in Kenya who want to enrich themselves on backs of patients' money. This is very shameful, and I will not allow it, the health secretary told journalists. She wrote a letter to EACC calling for those investigations, but nothing was done. In fact, by Monday, even after writing a letter on Thursday, the letter allegedly had not been received. So it's a very, it's a very murky environment. You may really sympathize with her. And her ministry, when she was saying that other people are taking instructions from others, it tells you how bit of other things that have affected this administration. Susanna Commisha, I want us to get a soundbite from Susanna Commisha before we move to the other bit on the sugar scam.
And thereby direct chair that you ensure that your staff understand what is expected of them. It does not make sense. It is irresponsible to have paid over 200 people for 2 years, them sitting at home in the name of COVID. Yet we all go to our offices nowadays. So chair of the board, please ensure and tighten the human resource skills and expertise that you have within this institution. But let me also say that we have individual culprits who taint the image of this institution. I will not stop at anything. Even if it means sending home a whole department, I am ready to deal with it.
And you can surely sympathize with her, even though she means well, and in fact, she's acting in the spirit of President Ruto. But of course, being someone from the academia, she's not so much acquainted with the politics of running government. Let's look at the sugar scam. This is where there is the real issue. The sugar scam sacked a cabinet secretary and powerful individuals in this administration. According to Sunday Nation, the person who raised the eyebrows, kept sent some emissaries to go and follow up on the consignment in the Thika warehouse, only to find out that is not there. However, according to Sunday Nation, a CS who was previously linked to the deal was disgruntled after he was shortchanged. Telling you. This story was composed by Moses Nyamori and Rosalind Obala. One of my really like their articles. By the way, you can grab your Sunday Nation. You're advertising them for free. Now, the sugar scam was previously a CS who was to benefit. Then a senior government official took over and he was shortchanged. So it was a deal went wrong. Does it mean if the CS was to be sorted, then maybe this would have just happened. Investigators are saying there is a high-profile meddling to forestall investigations, as others are now calling for some suspects to be turned as witnesses, so that others are also protected. Now, insiders say, according to an insider who spoke to The Nation, say that night calls are made to investigators to midwife the investigation. And it is sad that even after President ordered, it's not going on, I need to get you that quote. There's a quote here. It is strange that the officers are receiving calls on how to investigate the matter, even after President committed to keep off the business of state agencies. There are those seeking to forestall the investigations. The investigator requested to speak to Sunday Nation on confidence. On attempts to take suspects to courts have been delayed twice, despite of the file forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions by the Director of Criminal Investigations. The suspects were supposed to be arraigned in court last week on Wednesday. They were not arraigned. They were supposed again to be arraigned on Friday. That also failed. We understand that they are supposed to be arraigned tomorrow on Tuesday. But as that is going on, there is also another story saying that there are those who have already received, have given a bond of 100,000, while the night calls are actually putting the investigators in pressure. You never know that who is gonna blink if you do continue against what the directives are being made. Then are you gonna succeed in it, or will you lose it? So the powerful individuals behind the new billion scandals have actually made sure that things are not working. The suspects were arrested before even William Ruto cracked the whip and were arraigned on court, were to be arraigned in court. Ladies and gentlemen, in the wake of this, I want to narrow down this to the solution rests with William Ruto. I can hardly be convinced that a KEMSA official can block investigations on the matter by EACC, especially on an investigation that has been ordered by the president. I also don't believe, I'm not buying it, that another senior officer can midwife investigations being done by investigators so that they reach a preferred goal without the nod of President Ruto. And just like he said in Muranga, this needs his personal responsibility, because otherwise the sacking looks like optics, and Ruto, in the meantime, in the near future, will be branded as a beneficiary of those scandals if he can't crack the whip on those scandals. It is not enough to fire people. In fact, in firing, 27 people are fired over, I think, the sugar story. You will realize that you are firing people who are even innocent. For example, if you fire the whole department. But some of these deals are deals that cannot be done with everyone. So that that person who is innocent should continue working and feeding his family. A sin or a crime that has been committed by 2 or 3 people should not be put on the shoulders of everyone. And that is why investigation is needed. Otherwise, it doesn't show. And in fact, the reason why I believe William Ruto must take personal responsibility is because they rode to power in the wake of amidst a strong debate about integrity in this country. And I remember Ruto's past experience in the matters in government. I think he was highly profiled with the corruption card. So now that he's in administration, I think this needs to be him, and we should not entertain stories of someone saying, I am receiving calls to direct this and that. I think presidents need to. The system is not working because it is remote controlled by politics. And Ruto will only win the fight against graft if the system starts working. At the EACC, you have a new chairperson, my Bishop Oginde. You have a new chairperson of the commission. You've given financial autonomy to police, where DCI also works. You've given some very good funding to judiciary. So, because that is the intention, and the intention was to let these people work freely so that they can actually get the value, give Kenyans value for the money, the system should work. I don't understand why the CS Commisha is saying he wrote a letter and the letter was not even received until then Monday. You know, what he's saying, that simply means that someone is sitting on it, remote controlled. So William Ruto must come out of politics of pleasing the allies and work for the people, because the system is the big challenge. Cronyism is the blunder that will actually cripple UDA. Cronyism, and that is what is happening in help. You know, if the CS is saying that some junior officers are receiving orders from those above him, above her, then I'm simply saying those people might have got those jobs because how do they have contacts with those senior people in government? You know, how do they have those contacts? How do they get that loyalty? It means that maybe some spies were planted in each ministry. Corruption is tolling Ruto. And if he's not careful, he's going to be held political hostage by those he trusts most. So I believe on this one, it is not about narrowing to the police officers who did this and did that. In the fullness of time, if William Ruto cracks the whip, then people are going to regret. But more is needed apart from the talking. I think the talking is enough. Let's see the action.